Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner, Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, it was a Cubs sweep over the Angels in Orange County. And I mean, the story of the weekend was Kyle Tucker finally awakening from that slumber of that felt
Yes.
nearly 2 months. It's probably a month and a half of really poor play offensively. Poor play for him, especially August. I think 5 hits over the weekend. Uh, yeah, 5 hits, 4 of them for extra bases, 3 home runs, 7 runs batted in, 4 runs scored. He's still taking his walks. He's still not striking out much. Uh, just, Kyle Tucker showing once again that he's a superstar, but also showing once again that, look, we can't predict this stuff. He did not look good. I I don't blame anyone for saying like what is going on here. He looks terrible. Right before he left, that he had the 2 games off or the 3 games off, 2 days off, and then that what it was it the Thursday, right? It was a Thursday. He didn't look
Yes.
good in the lineup when he was back in the lineup. It was bad, and that's how things are in baseball. You don't know when it's going to change, and it's that one swing you feel something. You're like, oh yeah, there it is. I remember how to play baseball, and it's almost like that's what happened for Kyle Tucker. Very odd, but that's how we shouldn't. I should even say it's odd. We've watched enough baseball that we know that this isn't something that's weird. It just happens. It's hard to explain and understand sometimes.
Well, it's like Craig Counsell said, like this was coming, that a guy this accomplished, who's been so good for so long, was things were eventually going to turn. As Jed Hoyer said, you just don't know when, and that's what makes it so hard when you're going through it. But there was a funny scene in Angel Stadium's visiting clubhouse as kind of a small group of reporters approaching Kyle Tucker's locker, and Pete Crow Armstrong sees this. You just hear him call like, "Oh no, the king is back!" Like sort of a warning. Obviously, he did not put a lot of thought into this. It was just him kind of making an offhand comment, but it really summed up everyone who's followed this. The frustration on social media, the booing at Wrigley Field. It was just like, where is this guy? Why has he disappeared? And is he back? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, these were like no doubt home runs. There was just a spark to it. You can see what it does for the rest of the team. Giving the pitching staff some breathing room on Saturday night. Like that. When was the last time that happened?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, it just the day-to-day feel. It just feels like every game has been kind of like a bit of a slog or like a tight, narrow win. And Tucker in classic Tucker form was not reading too much into this. Like it was just funny to hear him like, could this be a turning point? Was this the swing where everything clicked? He's like, maybe. I just like, which again, I'm like, we're not complaining when we talk about players' answers. It's just like funny, and it's still revealing even like a shorter answer. Just so like, okay, this is, kind of how they process it. Counsell described it as each player has to organize his thoughts every single day and get it to a place where you can go out and get back to work the next day. And it seems like the Cubs have put so much like time and effort into this that I think you can look at 1 or 2 games and think like, all right, this is sort of like restoring things back to normal, because it's something they've been kind of working on since June, from the moment that he jammed his hand sliding into the base.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it there, but I thought it was really so. Pete Armstrong had a not unspectacular, I'd say, weekend outside of that huge home run on Friday. I don't remember him getting another big hit. I think he had maybe a sac fly, but that was obviously huge, and the reactions of the two players and how they handle these slumps and how they handle like getting a big hit. So different, right? Very different ways of going about business. Uh, and I don't think either one is wrong or bad or anything like that. I just find it fascinating the way it like we could spread this throughout we could talk about Craig Counsell in this manner too, because fans I noticed when they were struggling, fans wanted him to react in some way and scream and yell, maybe get thrown out of a game. We've talked about how that's not who he is. You start acting like a different person, people notice that, and they're like, "Uh-oh, this guy's panicking. He's losing his mind." Uh, they don't that I don't think that you get the reaction that you want from something like that when that's not who he is as a person. Um, PCA and Kyle Tucker are so different, and I just really appreciate it. I think Council even touched on this. I was reading your piece and from I think Saturday after Friday's game, and it was just interesting how Council talks about these two guys, and it's like, look, that everyone processes these things differently, everyone handles it differently, and there's no wrong way to go about it. Um, and you can come to the same conclusion or get to the same result by going at it in a completely different way.
Yeah, I kind of set up the premise to counsel just how humorous it was to me, at least, to have these guys maybe separated by 3 lockers, and they each did the post home run kind of media scrum within a few minutes of each other, and it was Tucker like, I don't know, we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah.
It was cool. Like, I just focus on the next at bat. And then you have Pete sort of just like, ripping his own performance, kind of processing this inner monologue, um, running with questions in all these big picture directions. And all these answers were coherent and insightful. Um, but defending Tucker, he's getting into how hard it is to hit at Wrigley Field, the wind's blown in your face and you got to go to work every day, most days, knowing like you could do everything right and put a ball in the air and you're not going to get rewarded for it. So Council with his sort of like chuckle and smirk was saying how you found the two total opposite ends of the spectrum on that one, and that one is much better for our medium
Yeah.
than the other, but they both work, and that's really all that counts.
Yeah, absolutely. One is better for us, what we do. And probably, I mean, Pete's better for the league in a sense, right? When I say that, like, you can put him on billboards or commercials much easier than Kyle Tucker. Just I don't think I think you take the results as a fan, whatever they are, and enjoy that. Uh, yeah, I think this weekend was a nice breather for fans, a nice reminder that there's a lot of talent on this team, and a good like just a good emphasis that the season is so long. A lot of things happen, and it's impossible for us to really know how this plays out. We can just the when we get annoyed with hearing about projections and this is the back of the baseball card and all that stuff, there's some value in that. There's value in being grounded and not overreacting to a smaller sample. Like 162 games is a lot of baseball. A lot of weird stuff happens. I've given up on trying to predict it, but I do try my best to not swing my emotions with a weekend of play. And so I'm not saying the offense is back and Kyle Tucker's like it feels like Kyle Tucker has found something. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know if
offense
the
as a
Cubs
whole,
yeah,
no.
I don't know. But we touched on this last week when we spoke. The pitching has been great. Let's touch on more great pitching, but a little bit of a concern after Sunday's game. The dog days of summer means it's time for the boys of summer to kick it into gear. And the best way to cash in on your baseball IQ is with DraftKings Sportsbook. Never bet on baseball before? It's simple. Pick a guy to go yard, hammer some live odds mid-game, or just ride with your squad and hope for the best. No spreadsheets, just vibes and dingers. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Patrick, the starting pitching has been awesome. An updated stat, I think June 25th is what I've chosen as the cutoff date. And it's a 2.90 starting pitching ERA since then. That's 0.33 better than the Brewers, a chunk better than the Red Sox. I mean, just been brilliant and carried this team through an offensive lull. Jameson Taillon, 5 innings. People were up in arms because he was pretty dominant and only had, I want to say, 62 pitches before he was pulled after those 5 innings. Turned out he was feeling a little something in that 5th inning. What did you hear about the groin? What was the reaction like by Counsell, by Taillon, and what's your understanding of the situation?
I think it's an evolving understanding. I think a lot will depend on how kind of Taillon feels. We're recording Monday, getting back to the ballpark Tuesday. Counsell framed it as a precautionary move. Taillon did not sound like overly concerned. He compared it to something he had at a different point in his career, and he said that was way worse. This is way better. I think he's described it as a little crampy sensation. Part of it could have been, he sat a little longer because the Cubs had rallied in Kyle Hendricks' last inning there. Not a full inning for Kyle, but that may have set him back a bit as he went out for his warm-up pitches and really tried to step on it. Just didn't get the body going. It just didn't feel quite right. It was also extremely and unusually hot in Anaheim, really the whole weekend. But I mean, I don't know. Could that have been part of it? Also, I asked Taillon, I'm like, you're not a doctor, but you also had a lower half injury earlier this year. Like, could that be connected? And he's like, don't know yet, but obviously, like you ask all those questions, sometimes there's connection, sometimes there's not. Taillon sounded upbeat, but he's also, I don't know, when you say he's a pretty optimistic person, I guess every pitcher in that scenario is like, it's not as bad as you thought, but then sometimes, it takes a little time to kind of fully absorb, the options and kind of what's really going on. So that was it certainly didn't ruin the mood or anything, and it's not a total alarm bells situation, but it's definitely something to monitor. That's what Counsell acknowledged. Like, you take a guy out there is always concern. Like, that's why he left the game. Like, there was no sort of out-getter bullpenning strategy going on. It was a response to a pitcher who felt off.
Yeah, the heat factor. I think those of us who are still in Chicago may not have understood how hot it was. It's fully entering fall, early fall weather here, where it's nice, and it's 70s and hoodie weather. It's a very different feel than what it was, even a week or 10 days ago in Chicago. So I don't think I fully appreciated that until someone mentioned the possibility of heat. I think Taillon in general is an optimistic person. Whenever I talk to him about injuries, he's ready to get out there. He wants to get after it. But I think this is one of those situations where I tend to lean optimistic, so I don't always know. But this feels like one of those, when something's bad after an injury, or when this feels like one of those. It's like, okay, nobody's freaking out. I think Counsell put it well. You got to monitor it. You got to check it. We'll see how he is Tuesday. He probably has a throwing day soon. He'll probably throw on Tuesday. And if he comes out of that and it's like nothing's going on, then It was just like some random flare up. That's what you have to hope, because you just don't want. I guess if he's hurt, you can just call Assad right back up.
Yeah, I mean,
if you have to put him on the IL.
Assad, I'm trying to remember my days here, but like he was optioned, but still with the club, which is like not unusual. So,
Yeah.
I didn't get his flight itinerary, like where exactly he was heading. But like, obviously he pitched really well on Friday. He was still around Saturday. Again, this is all normal for a guy like that to stay on his routine with the major league staff. It's not like he was going to go pitch for Iowa on Sunday, but this is what Counsell talked about the other day, of like, you have to always be prepared for different possibilities and scenarios. And he's felt like as a group, they've done that pretty well this year.
Yeah. Did he, was there a quote in your piece that I read that basically was like, he needs, like, this is his therapy, or like this may be his problem or something like that? What was that in reference to?
So this is one of those, like, it's really hard to sort of appreciate unless you're kind of standing in the dugout or in his office, but it is fun, like, talking to Counsell and kind of presenting a concept and then just like seeing how he kind of squints and tilts his head and it's just like, where are you going with this? And basically my point was like, I think it was Friday. This was Friday. So it was before Tucker broke out. And I was like, look, like, you talked about every major league season, there's challenges. So we say, bring them on. No one is scared about that. And I was like, look, it's probably realistic that like Kyle Tucker's going to learn how to hit again. Like, isn't your concern gotta be the pitching? And he was just like, we could be in an unbelievable situation and I'd be concerned about our pitching. Maybe that's my issue that I need to talk about. And so like, it really illustrated his very dry sense of humor. I'm glad you caught that in the middle of the story, because I got a kick out of it. And it really illustrates his kind of baseball worldview, how the front office thinks about it, how Tommy Sahadev groups thinks about it. Like, I could see them, winning a playoff round and he's already like worrying about who's going to like, take the sixth inning and in game one of the next round. That's just the nature of the job. And he's kind of a worrier slash, a bit cynical as well. So that was kind of the genesis of that back and forth.
Okay. That was interesting. Yeah, I mean, pitching is always the question. And I think this staff has been unbelievable, better than I expected, especially with these injuries. I just expected a step back from Shota this year. You lose Justin Steele. I may have been high on Matthew Boyd. I was not this high on Matthew Boyd. Just an impressive run from this group right now, and really have kept them going strong. Really, facilitated that sweep over the weekend. Let's talk a little bit about where the Cubs are at, how this team is doing, and if they have a chance now after we pronounce them dead in the division. We'll take a quick break. Be right back.
Okay, KP, this is your first Arena Club experience. We're going to open a slab pack together. So first off, we're going to buy one of those $25 slab packs, and we get to see what is in the pack. There it is. The Grail, which is the best card in the pack and worth the most. There are some other cards that we're chasing, and you can see the entire lineup so that you know what you're in the running for. There's the Yamamoto signed card. Now, let's open up our pack and see how we do. We have ourselves a really cool graphic, and then a Shohei Ohtani 50-50 card from last year. What do you want to do? Should we sell it right back to them for 16, or should we keep it?
You should give it to me. I'll keep it.
Good answer. Fine, I will give it to you. Since the Blue Jays didn't get Ohtani, you can get this 50-50 card instead. Use the code FOUL, F-O-U-L, to get yourself 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase. Yes, you get to keep that card if you want it. They send it to you. FOUL at arenaclub.com/foul.
Patrick, the Cubs pulled off the sweep. It was it's nice weekend. 8-2 in their last 10. It certainly didn't feel that way a week ago. A week ago, they'd just come off 2 uninspiring wins, I'd say, over the weekend against the Pirates. It was fine. Did what you needed to do. The offense still hadn't broken out. Uh, they exited that 5-game set with the Brewers out 7 games. I think we kind of said like that final game was like, a swing game in a sense. I think getting it was huge. Getting it would have been huge. Council's right. There was a reason Council was a little off after that game and not celebratory after winning a 5-game series. But look, I just said this. It's a long season. Weird things happen. 5 games out at this point is a lot, but it's not insurmountable. And the Brewers had to come down to earth, and it seems like they are. Their schedule's a little tougher. They're not getting every bounce. They're still a damn good team, but so are the Cubs. So maybe they're going to make this fun.
No doubt. I mean, that was, I think, the last thing I'd asked Council before leaving Angel Stadium of like, look, you were down. Like you were relatively disappointed and kind of surprisingly out of character after winning a series against the division rival and, kind of battling through, rain delays, rain outs, doubleheader, the Kyle Tucker saga. And, his point was like, you have to just keep focusing on every single day. Like they just have to keep stacking wins. And it's not out of the question. We saw it in 2018, Council's Brewers club was down, I believe it was 5 games. That might've been Labor Day weekend. It was the beginning of September, certainly. And they were able to close that gap and chase them down. I think the schedule is pretty favorable for the Cubs if they can keep the pitching healthy. I think the jury's still out on the offense. Like, I think we need to kind of see more and not just Tucker. I mean, Sayas got to get going. I think we'll see how, say, Matt Shaw does. Like if he continue this? Is he going to hit a wall? He's probably going to regress a little bit just to get that lineup functioning closer to what it was in the first half. I think is huge. Yeah, seeing the innings puzzle, as Council likes to call it. Like, how are they going to figure that out? But they're in a pretty good spot. I mean, seeing Cade Horton walk off the field with a blister last week after the, leading into the will they or won't they bench Kyle Tucker, all the boos coming down. Like it was the vibes were pretty bad, a week ago. And it shifted. That's just kind of a baseball season. So I feel like the odds are definitely not in their favor. The math is going to be hard to make it work. But they're giving themselves a chance. You're going to need sweeps. You're going to need series wins. And the Brewers are just going to have to come down, which we've been waiting to happen for a while. And maybe it is. I mean, we don't watch them every day. We just sort of look up and see these crazy highlights and kind of late inning wins, but they're in a pretty good spot. It's kind of amazing, even for as long as we've done this. Like it still is surprising of like, oh wait, like in a week things can like really flip.
Yeah, I mean, Council said it. I can't remember if you were there that day, Patrick, or not, but MLB.com's Brewers reporter Adam McCalvey was asking him about, the chase and can it be fun? Can you is this a fun thing? Like trying to chase down the Brewers. And then eventually it got to the point where it's like, he's like, well, you want to be on the other side. It's like, like, obviously you want to be the Brewers. Like the Brewers are 5 games up and like, you'd rather be there. If the Cubs can pull this off and get closer and make this interesting, it would just be fun. That's the bottom line. Like, make it interesting. I think fans would enjoy that. They're going to want the division. You want the division
Yeah.
for the sake of, I think it's a big deal. We haven't seen it pay off. I asked Jed about this at some point, maybe a month ago, to the need to get that one of those top 2 seeds. Look, it hasn't paid off yet, but it's early in this playoff format. The assumption is you want that bye. Get your pitching sorted out, get your relievers nice and healthy, get anybody that's banged up days of rest, and allow them to get healthy for the postseason and hopefully ready to play a full month of baseball. But the fact that we're talking about this a week after it felt like they were dead, and then people were worrying about the Reds catching them and them completely falling out of the playoffs. I wasn't at that point, because I just know I just think I'm just so used to feeling like this team sucks or this team is awesome. And then it flipping so quickly. And I have to remind myself to not be a prisoner of the moment, because it's so easy in baseball to forget that, what happened yesterday almost doesn't matter. Unless it's an injury, the things that happened the day before barely matter. You just have to, and that's why maybe Kyle Tucker's mindset is the right one, and we just need to take a lesson from him. Not okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm fixed. Maybe the offense will get going. Who knows? Yesterday doesn't count essentially anymore. All it is a win in the, in that column. Other than that, it's time to move on. And we have, it's really hard to do that. But the ball players are good at doing that. They're better at it than us. I don't know. I think I do think seeing a little bit of signs from the offense was helpful. I do not fully think they've turned a corner. I do think sometimes there's just you just got to get these big hits. The difference in that game was Reese McGuire hitting that grand slam. I thought it was going to turn into, did he just miss a bases clearing double by an inch and now he's going to pop out and they're going to get 1 run out of this or some crap? And instead they poured it on. And yesterday they didn't get, PCA got the sack fly, and then Carson Kelly got a single instead of breaking it open. I think there was a later bases loaded situation with 2 outs. And the Cubs just haven't been getting any of those hits. They got a couple of them this weekend, finally, where they're getting these 2 out run scoring situation hits. I think those are the little things that it's okay, you just put yourself more in those situations. You'd almost stop doing that regularly. Put yourself in those situations more often. You'll get a couple of these blowouts. They're not a team that strikes out. So I feel they can just put the ball in play and good things should happen. A little bit of luck needs to turn for them too. I'm not saying it's all luck. I'm just saying a little bit of that can start going their way again. And then suddenly you're like, oh yeah, here's that offense again.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating to watch how all these things are interconnected in those small moments that you're talking about, Sahadev, of okay, if this ball falls a certain way, then you have this sort of breathing room, then you organize your bullpen differently, then that impacts how you can attack the next game. Just the contagious nature of some of this stuff on the hitting side, certainly. There was a lot of energy and relief and sort of release for Tucker and for Preco Armstrong. I mean, Counsell was sort of joking that assistant hitting coach John Maley was praying in the dugout for Pete to do something, just because, Maley works so closely with PCA and has for a long time, and is super invested with him, and is obviously a long time, well-respected, well-liked member of the organization who really, was, feeling it for him, and for him to get that, I think can matter. It gives you a little bit of a reset there where it's not kind of weighing on you as much. And, credit to Pete. I mean, the other night he made another awesome, diving catch in center field that you look up and you're just yeah, he'll catch that. And then you just mark it on your scorecard routinely on plays that are not at all routine. So very curious to see how they present in San Francisco, what sort of updates we get, and how how they're positioned going into Coors Field, which is never an easy place to pitch, but at least you get to face one of the worst teams of all time. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the benefit right now of going to Colorado. Weird things happen there, but still,
yeah,
it's
weird
just a
weird
bad
things
team.
happen there. Yeah,
San Francisco is, they're not playing well. They're not a great team. They had a good weekend against the Brewers, but they even blew one of those games, if I'm remembering correctly. So this should end up being a good road trip. But again, I don't like making predictions in baseball because this game can be insanely stupid sometimes. But
Yes.
we'll see how. I think San Francisco could be the pesky one of the remaining 2 series on this trip. We'll see how how it all goes there, and if this offense really has woken up. I think that's the biggest thing, and the Tyone update will be interesting when you get that. All right, we'll be back with 2 more episodes later this week. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take